Hi, I'm Justin Gosman. I'm the host of Suede Reviews, and today is the day. It's August 16th, 2016. It's been 39 years since Elvis Presley passed away, and we are on the last day of what I'm calling 6 Days, 60 Albums, in which we are going through and taking a look at all of the albums included in the RCA Albums Collection as released by Sony Legacy, which was released in commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Elvis's first album, Elvis Presley, in 1956. So where we're starting off today, album number 51 is the first of 3 albums that were recorded at Stax Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. It's Raised on Rock, and for old time's sake, it kind of goes by both names, because, as you can see, it has basically two covers, which is very bizarre. The Stax stuff has not necessarily been particularly well remembered throughout the years. There are a number of reasons why. And when I finish with the Stax stuff, we'll talk about why that is, in particular. But another reason is that I don't think that it was marketed to the right audience, and I don't think that it was particularly marketed well as far as genre. Because the stuff that was recorded at Stax, basically, there were 2 elements to it. There was what was basically funk, 70s funk pop, and then country music were the 2 kind of versions, or 2 types of songs that Elvis recorded at Stax. And even though he was recording at Stax, he only used his own band. It wasn't so much. It wasn't like Stax's musicians, studio musicians, played on the recordings. But surprisingly, despite them not being on the record, I think that the whole vibe of Stax, that sort of 70s funk, comes across in the recordings, even though they don't have any of the Stax players on them. And to start off with Raised on Rock, it's kind of a mixed bag of an album. It jumps around between country and easy listening, and there's a couple of funk songs like If You Don't Come Back and Find Out What's Happening. And this is what I mean when I talk about how this was horribly marketed. There's just, if you look at like From Elvis in Memphis and how it's a blend of genres that cover a wide base, somehow they all fit together very well. These in particular don't serve a theme. They don't serve a particular sound, and so it actually does not work as well, which is unfortunate. There are individual songs on Raised on Rock that stick out to me. In particular, What's Happening is one. Another one is Sweet Angeline. I'm just, I guess, a sucker for those simple piano ballads. And I Miss You would be the other one that sticks out to me. There's a song on here, 3 Corn Patches, which, if I remember correctly, was a Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller song. I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me on that. But I think it was. And a lot of Elvis fans don't much care for that one, because it comes off, I guess, a little cornball to them. I don't really think of it that way. I think it's just it's out of place on this album. Really, this should have been saved for that track should have been saved for a straight up country album or a folk album. And that's one thing about a lot of the Elvis's 70s albums, is that they became a product. Not that albums were never, I mean, they were always a product, but even more so, it seemed like there was less of a direction of how to actually put track lists together. And that's the weirdest thing about the Stax stuff, is that you can use that excuse that, well, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel for like the Camden series or Elvis Now, but all these and 2 albums yet to come were all recorded basically at the same time. And there's a recent release in 2013, I think it came out, called Elvis at Stax, that Sony Legacy did. And it did a phenomenal job of restructuring the Stax recordings to put them in a proper context. And if you haven't picked up that release yet, or if you haven't listened to it on Spotify or Amazon or your streaming of choice, I recommend that. Not just because of the way it recontextualizes the masters, because it does section them off to, here are the country masters and here are the kind of rhythm and blues funk masters, but it actually, the first disc and the first half of the second disc are outtakes that have actually been remixed and come off even better than some of the masters. One thing that happened about the time of Raised on Rock, you could argue it went back to the last album, the Fool album as they call it. The mixes started to get a little muddy. There wasn't a lot of kick to them. And that I think is part of the case on this one too. If you listen to it in its original format, it's not a particularly interesting sounding album. But that's not to say it's a bad album. Especially going back and listening now, even on this box set, because the recordings have been cleaned up so much. It does sound much better, and they have been remastered, and so it does certainly sound better than it does like if you listen to this on vinyl. But even then, the masters are vastly different. They almost feel like different songs compared to what ended up being on Elvis at Stax. But as far as this specific album is concerned, I would really say that there are a few standout tracks, but that it was mostly kind of mismatched. Almost all the tracks on this were mismatched to where they should have been. In a better context, all of these songs could have worked better, but this album does not particularly work as a cohesive whole, which is unfortunate. So that's Raised on Rock.